Today, we are diving into yet another humiliating chapter in the ongoing downfall of Andrew Mountbatten Windsor. The former Duke of York has already lost his titles, his military patronages, his public role, and most of his dignity following the Epstein scandal. But according to new reports, he has now been stripped of something that once mattered to him more than any honor or medal. Respect, real, old-fashioned royal deference. When Andrew returned to Windsor Castle recently for the first time since King Charles revoked his titles, he was confronted with a reality he has never experienced before. He walked into the place he once dominated, expecting the usual bows, nods, and quiet fear that long protected him from scrutiny. Instead, what he met was silence, stiff shoulders, and staff who treated him like any other private citizen. Andrew had a relationship of some sort with Virginia Roberts. She is the woman that Prince Andrew's got his arm around in this photo dated 2001. At this point, she's 17. She subsequently alleged that Prince Andrew had sex with her 3 times. And for a man who spent decades insisting people salute him, address him as Your Royal Highness, and never put a foot wrong in his presence, this was the ultimate ego blow. But it wasn't the only hit to his ego. It became much, much worse. Tonight, we break down the entire saga, why this shift matters, and how it links to Andrew's increasingly desperate attempts to cling on to relevance, housing, and the last scraps of royal privilege. Let us get into it. Reports from Ephraim Hardcastle in the Daily Mail claim that Andrew's recent return to Windsor was not the triumphant comeback he imagined. Instead, staff who once bowed nervously now stood upright. Guards who once offered crisp salutes looked the other way. Palace employees who always greeted him as Your Royal Highness reportedly relished calling him Mr. Mountbatten Windsor. Prince Andrew was shocked into giving up his titles after King Charles threatened to take further action. It is understood the king spelled out to his younger brother that he must jump or he'd be pushed, with decisive further action reportedly on the table. Imagine that for a moment, a man who lived for status being addressed like he is renewing a driver's license at the local office. And this was not an accident. This was a deliberate cultural shift inside Windsor Castle, reflecting King Charles's decision to strip his brother of all formal styles and privileges. For Andrew, this was not merely embarrassing. It was a reminder that the monarchy has closed ranks around him. Even people who once feared upsetting him now feel safe enough to drop the act. Andrew then discovered another perk had vanished. His private meal delivery service from the castle kitchens is over. Yes, Andrew apparently enjoyed what insiders call a royal deliveroo, where meals from Windsor Castle would be sent directly to him at Royal Lodge. This is no longer happening. I think we need to know why Andrew is not paying any rent. And where did he get a total of £8 million in 2005? Because we pay for it. Well, no. Don't think the Mail are reporting today that he did not get a major inheritance from the Queen or the Queen Mother. Staff have been instructed not to send anything over. If Andrew wants lunch, he has to sort it himself or rely on whatever Sarah Ferguson throws together between her side hustles and withdrawn book launches. For a man who spent his entire life expecting others to cater to him, both physically and emotionally, this is a humiliation that cuts deep. It symbolizes the monarchy drawing a line under his entitlement. The message is clear. You are not part of the working machine anymore. You get what the public gets, nothing special. This sudden shift is not occurring in isolation. Andrew was notoriously difficult with palace staff for decades. Former aides have spoken openly about his temper, his lack of gratitude, and the way he barked orders without even acknowledging people as human beings. There are accounts of him shouting his infamous catchphrase, "Hurry up," at staff who dared to walk too slowly. Allegedly treats staff at the Royal Lodge. So what were some of the biggest revelations about working for the Duke of York? Yeah, so Tom Quinn's released this really kind of humorous book in a way, talking about, the lives of the staff at the palaces. What is it really like being, a maid or a butler to a member of the royal family? There are stories of him demanding that everything be done instantly, from pressing trousers to arranging last-minute flights. And there are employees who recall that if they forgot to bow or use the right address, he would glare, lecture, or complain to their superior. So imagine how those same staff feel today, free to stand tall, free to look him in the eye, free to call him Mr. Mountbatten Windsor, like a neighbor dropping off a parcel that was delivered to the wrong door. Some likely do not just tolerate this new protocol. They enjoy it. It is tempting to dismiss this as petty, a man not being bowed to, a meal service cancelled. But within royal circles, these gestures are powerful. Royal status is built on symbolism. Virginia Giuffre's powerful posthumous memoir. I have read this book, and here are some of the things that I have taken away from it. It contains absolutely harrowing accounts of the sex abuse and cruelty Virginia Giuffre says she suffered at the hands of Epstein and Maxwell. Once the symbols are gone, so is the power. Andrew has been desperately trying to reinsert himself into royal life since the Queen died. He hoped Charles would soften. He hoped his daughters would convince the palace to leave one or two privileges intact. He hoped the public outrage would fade. None of that has happened. Andrew's difficulty is that he cannot let go of the past. He still behaves as though he is royalty, even though the monarchy has very deliberately stripped him of that identity. He still insists he did nothing wrong, despite worldwide condemnation. He still expects sympathy, even though his arrogance and poor decision-making are the reasons he is in this mess. And he still clings to Royal Lodge. He cannot adjust. So when he walks into Windsor and staff refuse to bow, it is not just embarrassing. It is destabilizing. Public humiliation is one thing. Private humiliation, witnessed by the very people he once commanded, is far worse. So this is according to a report in the London Sunday Times that Prince Andrew and Fergie will not be invited to Sandringham. Now, I don't generally advise anyone to avoid church, but in Andrew's case, maybe he could spend a little more time in church privately rather than making headlines. Charles has made it clear that there is no path back for Andrew. There was a time when Andrew played the role of the high-ranking royal. He met world leaders. He strutted around royal estates with a confidence that bordered on smug. He was known for his temper, his entitlement, and his demands. But today, he is a man reduced to being called Mr. in his own childhood home. Instead of staying in the royal glare, he is set to relocate to a private property on the Sandringham Estate in Norfolk, one of the more remote royal estates. This move is scheduled to happen as soon as practicable, likely after Christmas or early 2026. And in typical Andrew fashion, it gets worse. Forget the tired back and forth about housing and titles. The most shocking development is the release of new emails exchanged between Andrew and Jeffrey Epstein's circle, and they are nothing short of devastating. In these messages, Andrew is not the calm, composed royal he pretended to be on camera. He is frantic, panicked, and completely overwhelmed. At one point he writes, "I can't take any more of this." That one line tells you everything a man who spent decades posing as the confident, untouchable figurehead of royal entitlement, suddenly reduced to desperation. The emails show him begging for statements to be drafted, insisting he knew nothing and was not involved, while demanding his name be scrubbed out of anything that might link him to Epstein's growing list of scandals. This completely contradicts his long-standing public claim that he had cut ties. Not only was the relationship active, he was knee-deep in the crisis control. He was coordinating, he was pleading, and he was terrified. He knows exactly what he's done, and I hope he comes clean about it. He absolutely denies any relationship or contact, and those allegations were thrown out of a court case. For a man who once felt invincible, seeing those words come from his own inbox is the most humiliating twist yet. These emails changed the entire tone of the Andrew saga. Up until now, the palace could frame him as a disconnected former royal who made bad choices but had stepped back. The emails destroy that narrative. They reveal a man who was still entangled, still communicating, still strategizing with the very individuals he claimed were supposed to be long gone from his life. His polite insistence that he barely knew them, that he had moved on, was pure performance. And the moment those emails surfaced, the public finally saw the truth behind the mask: a man in total panic. A man trying to stop the walls from closing in, a man pleading for others to protect him because he could no longer protect himself. It shows the world not just a fallen royal, but a man who knew the fall was coming. The tone of his messages tells a different story entirely. The monarchy has worked tirelessly to close the chapter on Andrew. Titles gone, roles gone, home being given up, public appearances erased. And yet the one thing they can't control is the paper trail. These emails are the last thing the palace needed. They reopen wounds they were desperate to seal, and they reignite questions about who knew what, when, and how much more might still be buried. For Andrew, the impact is brutal. His already shattered reputation has taken another hit. Public sympathy for him is non-existent. Even within royal circles, the patience has evaporated. For the monarchy, the fear now is simple. If this is what has surfaced, what else is still out there? So this is where we are, a former royal stripped of privileges and position, now exposed in private messages that reveal a very different man behind the scenes. Not the confident, self-assured figure he once presented to the world, but someone frantic, frightened, and begging to escape the scandal he helped create. These emails are a turning point. They redefine his legacy and expose the cracks behind his public denials. The question now is not whether Andrew will recover. It's whether the monarchy can distance itself fast enough. If you enjoyed this breakdown, hit like, subscribe, and tell me what you think. Do these emails change everything? Does this seal the end of Andrew's public life, or was the damage done long ago? Leave a comment with your thoughts. I read every single one.